I watch my sister's face in the fertility clinic's harsh lighting, see the moment she breaks again, fifth failed IVF. Rebecca's perfect makeup can't hide the shadows under her eyes, the tremor in her normally steady doctor's hands. James wraps his arm around her shoulders, but she's rigid, unreachable. The same look she had at Mom's funeral 3 years ago. The same desperate control she showed when Dad's cancer took him 2 years before that. Rebecca's always been the strong one, holding us together when our world fell apart. While I fell to pieces, she arranged funerals, handled estates, kept us both standing. There are other options, the doctor says gently. Surrogacy, for instance. Rebecca's head snaps up. Something flickers across her face, so quick I almost miss it. Her fingers dig into James's arm as she turns to look at me, sitting in the corner of the consultation room. I'm only here for moral support, like always. Perfect Rebecca and her perfect husband, and me, the divorced artist sister who lives in a studio apartment and can barely make rent. The family disappointment, as usual. "Ma," she whispers, and there's an edge to her voice I've never heard before. Emma could do it. The doctor's typing stops. James straightens, and I feel the weight of my sister's desperate hope pressing against my chest. "You're the only one I'd trust," Rebecca says, her voice stronger now. "The only family I have left. The only one who understands how much this means." She doesn't have to say the rest, how much she wants to build something new from all we've lost. How empty our family holidays feel now, just the two of us and James in that big house. How much she wants to fill that emptiness with a baby's laughter. "Beck," James starts, but she's already leaning forward, her eyes fever bright. "I will use my egg, James's sperm." She's looking at me like I'm the answer to every prayer she's ever whispered. "You'd just be a safe harbor for 9 months. Please, Em, please." I think about the way Rebecca held me through every crisis of my life. Through Mom's death, through Dad's long decline, through my divorce when Mark left me for his 22-year-old assistant. How she helped me pack up my failed marriage into neat labeled boxes, let me cry on her shoulder, gave me purpose when I had none. She's all I have left, the only constant in my world of chaos and failure. My big sister, who never gave up on me, who's been mother and father and best friend since we lost our parents, who deserves this one thing she wants more than anything. She sounds so reasonable. How I not help my only living family member? "Of course," I hear myself say, "of course I'll help." Rebecca's smile is radiant through her tears. James squeezes my hand. The doctor starts discussing procedures and protocols, but I'm watching my sister's face. The way she's staring at my abdomen like she can already see her baby growing there. "We'll take care of everything," Rebecca says, her voice thick with tears. "You'll move into our guest house. No more struggling with rent. No more lonely nights in that awful studio. You can focus on your art. We'll be together, like when we were girls. Like family should be." I nod, imagining cozy evenings and shared preparations, my sister and I growing closer as her baby, my niece or nephew, grows inside me. A chance to repay her for everything she's done for me. A way to be worthy of her support. Finally. A perfect gift. A perfect plan. I hug Rebecca as she cries, her tears soaking into my shoulder. "Thank you," she whispers over and over. "Thank you, Em." I hold her tighter, feeling her relief in every shuddering breath. James catches my eye over Rebecca's shoulder, his own eyes wet. They've been trying for so long. 5 rounds of IVF, countless procedures, each failure cutting deeper than the last. Finding a surrogate would be nearly impossible. The waiting lists are years long, the costs astronomical. And Rebecca needs this, needs family. It's not perfect timing for me. My studio apartment is still full of unpacked boxes 6 months after the divorce, my art supplies gathering dust. Some days I can barely get out of bed, let alone think about carrying a baby. But watching Rebecca pull herself together, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, I know it's the right choice. "We'll do all the paperwork this week," she says. always the organized one, my sister. And you'll move in right away. No arguments. I think about our empty family home, sold after Dad died. About the photos of 4 smiling faces that now live in boxes in Rebecca's attic. About how quiet holidays have become, just the 3 of us rattling around her big house. A baby would change all that, would give us something to look forward to, something to build our new family around. Whatever you need, I say, squeezing her hand. That's what family's for. The doctor starts explaining the procedure schedule, but I'm watching my sister's face come alive with hope, with possibilities. For the first time since Mom's funeral, she looks like herself again. This is something I can do right, something I can give back after all the time she's picked up my pieces. A perfect gift, from one sister to another. The hormone injections leave bruises on my stomach, tiny purple constellations marking each day's attempt to prepare my body for someone else's baby. My skin is a watercolor of yellows and blues, each mark fading just in time for a new one to bloom. Rebecca administers them herself. I am a doctor, after all, her hands gentle but sure as she finds unmarked spaces on my increasingly tender skin. Almost there, she soothes, disposing of another needle in the sharps container she bought specifically for this purpose. Your levels are looking perfect. She makes a note in the leather-bound medical diary she keeps just for me, recording every injection, every symptom, every minor fluctuation in my body's response to the hormones. I've moved into their guest house, a converted carriage house that sits like a smaller echo of their Victorian home. The space has been transformed. Organic cotton sheets in soothing cream colors, a filtered water system that cost more than my old car. Air purifiers hum quietly in every room, their blue lights pulsing like artificial heartbeats in the darkness. The kitchen gleams with new appliances and Rebecca's careful organization. Glass containers of approved snacks line the shelves, organic nuts, dried fruits, whole grain crackers. The refrigerator holds prepared meals in stackable containers, each one labeled with contents and heating instructions. Prenatal vitamins stand in military rows on the counter, arranged in daily doses in a specialized pill organizer. You don't have to do all this, I say, watching her reorganize my art supplies for the 3rd time this week. My easel sits untouched by the window. I haven't felt like painting since Mark left, but Rebecca insists the natural light is perfect there. I'm capable of taking care of myself. Of course I do, she replies, straightening a stack of canvases with precise movements. You're doing this amazing thing for us. Let me take care of you. Her voice catches slightly on the word amazing, and I pretend not to notice. This is a lot for her. This is her baby, after all. The hormones make me cry at everything. Commercials about puppies, the way the morning light hits the hardwood floors, the sight of James carrying groceries to the main house. Sometimes I wake up in tears and don't know why. Other times I find myself laughing uncontrollably at nothing. Rebecca says it's normal, marking each mood swing in her diary with clinical precision. I catch her crying too, usually when she thinks I'm not looking. In the kitchen while preparing my evening tea, in the garden while checking the herbs she's planted for my fertility-supporting tisanes. We're both emotional wrecks, riding this hormone-fueled roller coaster together. I found your wedding album while we were unpacking, she says one evening, settling beside me on the plush gray couch she insisted on buying for the guest house. It's too big for the space, but she said I needed somewhere comfortable to rest. Do you want me to store it away? The mention of my failed marriage doesn't sting as much as it used to. Maybe it's the hormones, or maybe it's being here, wrapped in my sister's careful attention. You can toss it, I say, surprising myself. It's time to make new memories. Rebecca hugs me tight, and we both pretend not to notice each other's tears. She's everywhere, constantly checking on me, adjusting the thermostat, monitoring my diet. The guest house door opens and closes throughout the day, Rebecca bringing fresh ginger for morning sickness that hasn't even started yet, dropping off another pregnancy book, rearranging my kitchen while I nap. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, especially when I find my clothes reorganized by color or my painting supplies shifted to make room for another air purifier. Your body is a temple right now, she reminds me, replacing my regular tea with her approved herbal blend. The steam rises between us in the morning light, carrying the scent of chamomile and something else I can't identify. We have to get everything perfect for the transfer. I notice she's replaced my coffee maker with a sleek new tea kettle. My favorite mugs have disappeared, replaced with bone china cups that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But I don't say anything. This is Rebecca's way of maintaining control in a situation she'd love to experience for herself. The hormone injections continue twice daily. Morning and night, Rebecca arrives with her medical bag, her diary, her careful attention to detail. Each injection is followed by a series of questions. How are you feeling? Any cramping? Did you drink enough water today? Are you getting enough rest? I'm fine becomes my standard response, even on days when I'm not. Even when the hormones make me want to crawl out of my own skin, or when memories of Mark ambush me in the middle of the night. James stops by too, awkward but well-meaning, carrying heavy things Rebecca decides I shouldn't lift, installing yet another air filter, building the storage unit Rebecca ordered for my art supplies. He's quieter than usual, watching his wife's care with my well-being with a mixture of concern and resignation. We're in this together, Rebecca says for the 100th time, holding my hand as we review the procedure schedule yet again. The transfer date is circled in red on every calendar in both houses. Just like always. I squeeze her fingers, remembering all the times she's held me together. After Mom, after Dad, after Mark. Now it's my turn to be the strong one, to help her build the family she desperately wants. But some nights, alone in my perfectly arranged guest house, surrounded by the hum of air purifiers and the scent of Rebecca's approved tea, I lie awake wondering if I'm ready to help create a new life when I'm still trying to rebuild my own. The hormone-induced insomnia gives me too much time to think, to remember, to doubt. Then morning comes, and with it Rebecca, bearing tea and vitamins and hope. Her smile reminds me why I'm doing this. For my sister, for family, for the chance to bring joy back into our too quiet lives. Transfer day is next week, she says, marking another successful injection in her diary. Everything's gonna be perfect. You'll see. I nod, watching her precise handwriting fill another page. Perfect. Rebecca's favorite word. And if getting there means letting her control every aspect of my life for now, well, that's what sisters do for each other. The pregnancy test sits between us on the marble bathroom counter, two pink lines stark against white plastic. Early morning light filters through the frosted window, casting everything in a dreamy glow. My hands shake as I stare at those lines, so small, yet holding such enormous meaning. Rebecca's hand finds mine, squeezing so hard it hurts, her fingers trembling against my palm. It worked, she whispers, then louder. It worked. Her voice breaks on the second word, tears already streaming down her perfect makeup. She's dressed for work, her scrubs pristine, her dark hair neatly braided, but now mascara tracks down her cheeks. The bathroom spins slightly, maybe from the hormones, maybe from the morning sickness that's plagued me for the past week. Rebecca steadies me, pulling me into a fierce hug. The scent of her expensive perfume mingles with the antiseptic smell of hospital that always clings to her clothes. I close my eyes, feeling her heart hammering against mine. My baby, she whispers into my hair. My miracle. Her joy is infectious, making me forget my own nausea, my doubts, my lingering sadness. We cry together, holding each other in her enormous master bathroom, surrounded by marble and chrome and morning light. For a moment, everything feels perfect. We're just sisters again, sharing a profound moment of happiness, like when we were girls and the world was simpler. James appears in the doorway, still in his pajamas, hair mussed from sleep. Everything okay? I heard. It worked! Rebecca releases me to throw herself into her husband's arms. We're having a baby. I watch them embrace, see James's face light up with wonder and relief. Rebecca turns back to me, her smile radiant through her tears. We need to celebrate. I'll call the clinic. Schedule the first ultrasound. Oh, and we should start planning the nursery. Back tape, James laughs. Let's just enjoy this moment first. But Rebecca's already reaching for her phone, her free hand unconsciously straying to my still flat stomach. There's so much to do, so much to prepare. I lean against the counter, suddenly exhausted despite the early hour, but Rebecca's happiness fills the room like sunlight, and I push away my fatigue. This is what family does for each other. This is what sisters do. You're giving me everything I've ever wanted. Her joy is infectious, even as something twists in my stomach. I swallow hard and force a smile. I have to remember this is her baby, not mine. Just because it's my egg doesn't make it my child. I'm just an incubator, a vessel, a gift to my sister who survived cancer only to find herself unable to carry a child. That afternoon, Rebecca appears at my guest house with a team of movers. You can't possibly stay out here, she insists, already directing them toward my belongings. We need you closer, where we can take care of you properly. I start to protest. I like my independence, my quiet space. But her face crumples slightly. Please, Emma, I need to know you're both safe. I need to be part of every moment. You understand, don't you? And how can I say no? How can I deny her anything when she's looking at me with such desperate hope, when she's already lost so much to cancer? When she's my sister, my best friend, the one who held me through my own losses. So I watch as the movers transfer my life to the ground floor suite of the main house, telling myself, this is normal. This is what family does. This is what love looks like. Where are my art supplies? I ask, noticing they haven't been brought over. Rebecca's face does that thing, that slight tightening around the eyes that always preceded a difficult conversation when we were growing up. The fumes could harm the baby, she says gently. And honestly, Em, you've barely touched them anyway. Not since, she trails off, but I hear the unspoken, since Mark left you. But I was just starting to paint again. Remember how you couldn't pay for your studio space after the divorce? She interrupts softly. How I covered your rent for 3 months, paid your car insurance, your dental work? Her hand finds mine, squeezing gently. I'm just looking out for you, like always. The guilt rises like bile in my throat. She's right, of course. She's always right. So I watch silently as my paints, my canvases, my small attempts at rebuilding my creative life remain in the guest house, gathering dust. The monitoring increases daily. Security cameras appear in corners of my suite. For safety, Rebecca insists. My phone pings constantly with apps she's installed to track my movement, my sleep patterns, my food intake. Each meal is planned, weighed, documented in the leather-bound journal she carries everywhere now. When I suggest, hesitantly, that it might be excessive, her eyes fill with tears. After everything we've been through together, she says, her voice soft but hitting exactly where it hurts. After Mom and Dad, after I helped you through the divorce, I thought you'd understand how important this is to me, to us. Remember when you couldn't make rent last spring, when your car broke down? What kind of sister would I be if I didn't watch out for you now? Each reminder of my past financial dependence feels like a gentle slap. Each memory of her generosity, another brick in the wall she's building around me. I find myself apologizing, retreating, submitting. She's done everything for me. It's time I did something for her. The smell of Rebecca's pot roast hits me the moment I enter the formal dining room, and my stomach rolls in protest. I pause in the doorway, taking shallow breaths through my mouth, trying to compose myself. Lately, everything makes me nauseated, but red meat is the worst. The rich, iron smell seems to fill every corner of the room, making my palms sweat and my throat tighten. Rebecca watches me from the head of the table, her eyes sharp despite her soft smile. She's wearing her doctor's expression, the one I've seen her practice in mirrors since medical school. Professional concern masking something else. I sink into my assigned chair, the heavy brocade cushion somehow too soft and too firm at once. The perfectly arranged place setting swims before my eyes. Why are there so many forks? My fingers tremble slightly as I arrange my napkin in my lap, aware of Rebecca's gaze tracking every movement. I didn't think the early stages of pregnancy would hit me so hard, but the nausea, my trembling hands, and swimming vision tell me otherwise. The first bite of pot roast sits on my fork, and I can feel bile rising in my throat. I push the meat around my plate instead, trying to make it look like I'm eating. The china makes a slight scraping sound that seems to echo in the too quiet room. Emma, Rebecca's voice carries that clinical tone she uses with patients. Your iron levels were concerning at your last checkup. You need protein. My chest tightens at her tone, part disappointed teacher, part worried sister, part something else I can't quite name. I force myself to take a small bite, fighting the wave of nausea that follows. The meat feels like clay in my mouth. Maybe I could try some fish tomorrow, I suggest, hating how timid my voice sounds. I used to be the bold sister, the one who spoke her mind. When did I become so small? The sharp clatter of Rebecca's fork against her plate makes me jump, my own utensil slipping from suddenly nerveless fingers. James looks up, startled, and I catch a flash of something in his eyes. Concern? Fear? I've been monitoring your nutritional intake, Rebecca says, her voice trembling slightly. As a doctor and as your sister, I know what's best for this pregnancy. This baby needs... Ugh, James interrupts gently, and I feel a rush of gratitude for his intervention, even as anxiety floods my chest at how Rebecca might react. If she's nauseated, Rebecca's face crumples and guilt immediately swamps me. This is my sister, who's given me everything, a home, a purpose, a chance to help her have the baby she deserves. And here I am, being difficult about something as simple as dinner. You don't understand. Neither of you understand. Do you know how many pregnancies I've monitored? How many mothers I've guided through successful gestations? Her hands shake as she reaches for her water glass, and I watch a drop spill over the rim. This isn't just about Emma's preferences. This is about what's best for the baby. My baby. The way she says my baby is the truth. The child growing inside me belongs to her. That's the whole point, isn't it? So why does her tone make my hand want to curl protectively around my swelling abdomen? I know, Beck, I say softly, trying to smooth over the moment, to be the good sister, the good surrogate, the good everything she needs me to be. I'm trying. Are you? Her eyes lock onto mine, intense in a way that makes me want to look away. Because sometimes I wonder if you're taking this seriously enough. The baby's development at this stage is crucial. Every nutrient, every vitamin. She dabs at her eyes with her napkin. I've waited so long for this, worked so hard, and now to watch you reject what I know is best, guilt floods me. She's right, she's the doctor, the successful one, the one who studied obstetrics for years. Who am I to question her? Respect. James tries again, but she cuts him off. Oh, James, this is medical, this is my field. Her voice hardens. Emma, I've scheduled additional blood work for tomorrow, and I want you to start keeping a food diary. Everything you eat, drink, every supplement. I'll review it daily. I offer her a small smile. Of course. The pot roast sits like lead in my stomach, but I force another bite, and another. Rebecca watches each mouthful. See, that's not so hard, is it? We just need to maintain proper protocols. Structure, control, she says. No, of course not. Anything for you, I say. She smiles at me and squeezes my hand, and the world is right again. Rebecca's Range Rover glides into a parking space at the upscale baby boutique, the kind of place where price tags are discreetly hidden and everything smells of lavender and money. My fingers trace the store's elegant window display, taking in the artfully arranged treasures behind the glass. I've been sketching nursery ideas for weeks in my private notebook. Nothing too elaborate, just peaceful artistic touches. Soft yellows that remind me of early morning light. Gentle greens like new leaves. A space that would feel like a sanctuary. I'm thinking something classic, Rebecca says softly, her manicured hand resting possessively on my shoulder. You know how trends can look so dated in photos later. Remember your bedroom makeover phase in high school? My heart sinks a little. She's right, of course. The memory of my teenage room, walls sponge painted in sunset colors that seemed so sophisticated at the time, makes me cringe now. My ideas are probably too whimsical, too temporary, too me. Inside, the store wraps around us in muted luxury. While Rebecca consults with an eager saleswoman, I'm drawn to a handcrafted mobile hanging in a quiet corner. Paper cranes in soft pastels drift on invisible currents, catching light like dreams. This is lovely. Oh, Emma. Rebecca's voice is gentle, almost pitying, the same tone she used when I showed her my college art portfolio. Remember when you went through that origami phase in college, right before you dropped out of art school to get married? She moves to an expensive crystal mobile instead, all sharp edges and precision. We want something that will last longer than that, don't we? Heat creeps up my neck, spreading across my cheeks. She doesn't mean anything by it. She's just looking out for the baby's best interests, like she always has for me. In the clothing section, my fingers find a sweet organic cotton onesie. Tiny butterflies dance across the fabric, each one carefully hand-embroidered. The stitches remind me of brush strokes, of art that comes from love rather than machines. This is, Rebecca interrupts, holding it up to the light like she's examining a medical specimen. The stitching is a bit irregular, isn't it? But I suppose that's the artistic look you're drawn to. She replaces it carefully, steering me toward a display of designer pieces that cost more than my monthly art sales. The baby deserves the best quality, especially given the sacrifices we're making. We march through the store, past shelves of carefully curated baby items that cost more than my car. I'm a bit heavier on my feet at 6 months along now, and it takes more than a little effort to keep up with Rebecca's purposeful stride. My back aches, and I stretch discreetly, trying not to draw attention to my discomfort. It's nice to see her excited, as both James and I are, about bringing this child into the world. Have you been sleeping well? She asks suddenly, pausing to study my face. Her eyes narrow slightly. You look tired. More than normal pregnancy fatigue. Those circles under your eyes. She pulls out her phone, already making notes. I should probably adjust your vitamin regimen. You can't exhaust yourself when the baby needs to grow. I touch my face self-consciously, wishing I'd worn more makeup. The boutique's soft lighting suddenly seems harsh, exposing every flaw. Do I look that bad? Is that why the saleswoman keeps directing all her questions to Rebecca instead of me? My sister's concern wraps around me like a silk scarf, soft but somehow suffocating. Every suggestion, every observation, every gentle reminder of my past mistakes, they all carry the weight of her medical degree, her success, her certainty that she knows best. In reality, she does. After all, look at our lives. She's the successful doctor with the perfect house and devoted husband. I'm the struggling artist living in her guest house, carrying her baby because I can't seem to get my own life right. The thought sits heavy in my chest as I follow her through the store, my own dreams of soft yellows and paper cranes folding themselves away like origami I never quite mastered. This rocking chair would go nicely in the nursery. I gesture toward a beautiful wooden one with cushions in soft sage green, trying to change the subject. The curved runners remind me of the one my mother used to rock me in, its wood worn smooth by generations of late-night feedings and lullabies. Rebecca's eyebrows lift. A rocking chair, what for? Well, for feeding the baby, I say, running my hand along the smooth armrest. I thought maybe... Oh, Emma! That gentle, patronizing tone again. You weren't thinking of breastfeeding, were you? The question catches me off guard. We never discussed it, but I assumed... Sweetie, she shakes her head. Bottle-fed babies are just as healthy as breastfed babies. The studies are quite clear on that. Besides, her voice softens to something that sounds like concern. You're doing more than enough. I couldn't possibly ask you to feed my child as well as give birth. My child, not the baby, not our baby, her child. But the bonding benefits? I start, then stop as her expression shifts. Bonding? Something flashes in her eyes before she controls it. Emma, we've talked about this, about getting too attached. You're doing a wonderful thing for James and me, but let's be clear about boundaries. I swallow hard, my hand dropping from the rocking chair as if burned. Of course. I just thought, actually, she continues, scrolling through her phone, I've been meaning to discuss the delivery with you. I've scheduled your C-section at 40 weeks. I what? The boutique's soft lighting suddenly seems too bright, too harsh. But I want to try for a natural birth. She takes my hand and links her fingers with mine, giving me a gentle squeeze. Sweetie, I need to make the medical decisions. C-sections are less traumatic for the baby. It's cleaner, more controlled. We can't risk anything going wrong. But it's my body, I whisper, then immediately regret it as her expression hardens. Is it? She steps closer, her voice low. Need I remind you of the agreement we made, of everything James and I have done for you? Her hand rests on my shoulder. You're being emotional again. Is the anxiety getting worse? Perhaps we should increase your medication. The room seems to spin slightly. Medication? But I'm not on any. Except the vitamins she insists I take every morning while she watches. Now, she continues brightly, steering me away from the rocking chair, let's look at bottles. I've researched the top brands, and there's a German manufacturer that's superior. I follow her numbly, my hand resting on my swelling abdomen where her baby, kicks against my ribs. Each movement feels like a reminder of something I'm losing, though I'm not quite sure what. The rocking chair recedes behind us, its empty seat seeming to mock my assumptions. Of course I won't need it. Of course I won't be feeding the baby. Of course I won't have a say in how it enters the world. Of course, of course, of course. Rebecca talks about bottle temperatures and sterilization techniques, about scheduled feedings and controlled environments, about everything she has planned for her baby. I nod in all the right places, smile when expected, agree to the C-section I don't want. It's not my baby. It's not my baby. It's not my baby. I'm certain I left What to Expect on the kitchen counter last night. My copy, not Rebecca's pristine one, is well worn and loved, filled with my cramped handwriting in the margins and colorful sticky notes poking out from important pages. Last night, I'd been reading about natural birthing positions, carefully marking sections that might help me avoid the C-section Rebecca's so insistent upon. I remember the weight of the book in my hands, remember setting it right here beside the fruit bowl, but it's not there now. Looking for something? Rebecca's voice makes me jump. She stands in the doorway, still wearing her doctor's coat, her hospital ID badge catching the light. Something about her stance, the way she leans against the doorframe, arms crossed, makes me feel like I've been caught doing something wrong. My pregnancy book, I say, trying to keep my voice casual as I check under magazines behind the coffee maker. I know I left it right here. Rebecca's brow furrows. Emma, you didn't have a book out last night, don't you remember? Anyway, we talked about this, about how those commercial pregnancy books can cause unnecessary anxiety. But I specifically remember curling up in the window seat, the book heavy on my lap. Remember the excitement of reading about different birthing positions, about how women have been delivering babies naturally for thousands of years. Remember thinking maybe I could convince Rebecca that I don't need the C-section she's planned. The memory is so clear, isn't it? But under Rebecca's steady gaze, it starts to feel hazy, like a photograph left in the sun too long. Actually, Rebecca continues, the click of her heels sharp against the tile as she sets her bag on the counter. I'm glad you're here. We should discuss your post-birth arrangements. Her voice is gentle but firm, the tone she uses when she's about to tell me what's best for me. The same tone she's used since we were children, since she became the successful sister, and I became the one who needs guidance. My hand instinctively goes to my 7-month bump, feeling the baby shift beneath my palm. These movements have become my anchor lately, the only thing I'm completely certain about in this house of shifting truths. What do you mean? Rebecca perches on one of the kitchen stools, smoothing her skirt. You'll need time to recover. Perhaps staying with a friend would be best? Or that cute apartment complex near your old studio. She trails off delicately, as if she's suggesting vacation options rather than my exile. She doesn't need to go anywhere, James says, entering the kitchen. Emma's doing us an incredible favor. She can stay as long as she wants. Rebecca's eyes well up with tears, and my gut twists with guilt. I wouldn't be here at all if she could have her own baby. I know she'd give anything to be able to be pregnant with her own child. I shouldn't judge her for anything she says or does. She's under an incredible amount of stress. Of course she can stay. I'm sorry. I didn't think I was suggesting anything bad. Rebecca's voice trembles with exactly the right amount of emotion. She turns to James, who wraps her in his arms, her frame fitting perfectly against his chest. It's so hard, her voice catches. Watching my sister experience everything I should be doing, everything I'd give anything to do myself. She lets out a quiet sob. Every kick, every movement. They should be mine. I should be the one carrying your child, James. Our child. Her hand rests possessively on my abdomen for a moment before withdrawing. And you've been so wonderful, Emma. She breaks off, dabbing at her eyes. Guilt floods me, hot and familiar. Here I am, selfishly worried about a missing book, about where I'll live, while my sister suffers. The baby kicks again, and I resist the urge to rub the spot, suddenly feeling like I'm stealing something that isn't mine. See, I'm sorry, I start, but she cuts me off with a watery smile. No, I'm sorry, I'm being silly, she straightens, composing herself. She blinks as her eyes fall on my round stomach. Did you take your vitamins this morning? You seem a bit confused. Yes, but did I? Everything feels fuzzy lately, like trying to see through frosted glass. Time slips away in strange chunks, leaving gaps I can't quite explain. Here, she pulls a pill organizer from her bag. Had she been holding it this whole time? Let me get you some water. James, honey, could you check on the nursery painters? I think I heard them arrive. James kisses her forehead and leaves. She fills a glass with filtered water, watching as I swallow the pills. Stress can be harmful during pregnancy. Maybe you should go and take a little nap. You look tired, more than usual. Her voice carries that practiced medical authority. I'll bring you some tea. I head upstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. The fog that's become so familiar lately starts creeping in at the edges of my mind. Odd. And Emma? I turn around, hand gripping the rail to steady myself. Yes? Rebecca's face softens. Let's not worry James would talk about staying here after. A clean break would be better for everyone. She moves closer, lowering her. I've seen this so many times in my practice. Surrogacy can play tricks with people's minds. The hormones, the attachment, it's all chemical, of course, but it can make things... She touches my arm gently. Even the most stable surrogate mothers can develop unhealthy attachments. I've seen the best arrangements turn ugly when boundaries aren't maintained. I just want to protect everyone involved. You understand, don't you? The way she says it makes perfect sense. Of course she's looking out for everyone. Of course she's seen this before. Of course I shouldn't stay. You're right, I mumble, though something in the back of my mind protests weakly. I'll bring that tea up shortly, she says, already turning away. The chamomile blend, it helps with anxiety. Rebecca's home office feels forbidden, though she's never explicitly said I can't enter. It sits at the end of the upstairs hallway, all gleaming mahogany and leather-bound medical texts. Everything shines with the same perfection as the rest of the house. Her degrees and certifications hang in matching frames, each one level. Medical journals stand alphabetically arranged on built-in shelves, their spines aligned. Not a paper out of place. Not a speck of dust allowed to settle on her massive desk. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching dust motes in its beam, the only sign of imperfection in this space. Even the family photos on her desk seem staged. Rebecca in her white coat, Rebecca receiving awards, Rebecca and James at charity events. I notice there are no pictures of me, though there used to be one of us as children. When did that disappear? Can I even be sure it was there at all? I'm not even sure my pregnancy book would be in here, but I've looked everywhere else. The guest house, the kitchen, even the nursery, though being in there makes me uncomfortable lately. It's so strange that I can't find the missing book. I remember holding it last night, remember the weight of it in my hands, as I read about natural birthing options. Her medical bag sits on the leather chair beside her desk. I've seen her making notes in it during my checkups, her elegant handwriting flowing across pages I'm never allowed to see. Just routine observations, she says, then smiles at me, chasing away any doubts. I just don't want you to worry. As I reach past it toward the desk drawers, my elbow catches the bag's strap. The bag tips, spilling its contents across the plush cream carpet. I drop to my knees, gathering scattered papers and prescription pads to pick up the mess. That's when I see a small leather journal, different from her usual medical notebooks. The leather is soft, worn, like it's handled frequently. It's fallen open near my knee, and my name catches my eye, written in Rebecca's handwriting. But something about the words makes my blood run cold. Day 47. Emma showing increased confusion and lethargy. Dosage appears effective. Minor memory issues reported, perfect for establishing pattern of instability. Increased lorazepam in morning tea seems particularly effective. She's starting to question her own memories, exactly as planned. James mentioned she seemed scattered at dinner. Building groundwork for psychiatric intervention post-delivery. My hands shake so badly I can barely hold the journal. Her elegant handwriting continues down the page. This can't be what it seems. But the words blur and sharpen before my eyes, each one a knife to my gut. Day 89, James beginning to notice Emma's unstable behavior, exactly as predicted. His concern about her emotional state will be crucial for later documentation. He mentioned her crying in the guest house again. Perfect. Have suggested she might be developing prenatal depression. He's appropriately worried about her ability to handle the separation after birth. Planted seeds about her history of emotional instability, reminded him about her breakdown after art school, which she's starting to believe happened as I've described it. The room spins slightly as I turn the page, my other hand gripping the edge of Rebecca's desk for support. The baby kicks, as if sensing my distress, but even that familiar comfort now feels like a countdown to something terrible. Reminder: remove any documentation of natural birth options. Emma's becoming too interested in alternatives to C-section. Cannot risk her interfering with delivery plans. Scheduled C-section gives me complete control of the situation. Dr. Harrison agrees, no chance of her bonding with my child during delivery. Must remove that ridiculous pregnancy book she keeps reading. She's becoming too informed, too confident. This ends now. Need to increase surveillance. Emma spending too much time alone in guest house. Installed additional cameras while she slept. James thinks they're for her safety. Poor dear. Monitor shows frequent crying episodes. Excellent for psychiatric evaluation. Have video evidence of her talking to herself, the baby, but that's not how the footage will be interpreted. Starting to compile documentation of erratic behavior. The security company has been well paid for their discretion. My throat tightens as I read the latest entry, dated yesterday, the ink still looking fresh on the page. Post-hypotherapy plan in place. Dr. Harrison agrees Emma's emotional instability during pregnancy indicates potential postpartum psychosis. James will be devastated, of course, but better he see her as sick than realize the truth about the baby. The commitment papers are already drawn up, just waiting for my signature. 48-hour hold initially, then transfer to long-term care. By the time she's well enough to be released, my child will be legally and irrevocably mine. Emma's mental illness will ensure she never has any claim. Everything proceeding exactly as planned. The last line sends ice through my veins. Note to self: increased dosage in evening tea. Can't risk her becoming clear-headed enough to realize what's happening. Not when we're so close to success. After all, what jury would believe the unstable surrogate over the respected doctor? Poor, confused Emma. She never did understand that some people deserve motherhood more than others. The words swim before my eyes and I realize I'm crying. Silent tears splash onto the page, smearing the ink of my sister's methodical destruction of my life, my sanity, my future. The click of heels in the hallway sends ice through my veins. The journal slips from my trembling fingers as I scramble to replace everything in the bag. Emma? Rebecca's voice carries down the hall. Are you up here? I shove the last papers inside just as she appears in the doorway. Her eyes take in everything, me on the floor, the slightly askew medical bag, my shaking hands. I was looking for my book, I say, proud of how steady my voice sounds. I knocked over your bag. I'm so sorry. You seem flushed. Did you take your vitamins this morning? Her concern seems grotesque now that I know what's behind it. Yes, I lie, forcing a smile. I was just about to lie down, actually, feeling a bit tired. She helps me up, her hand cold against my arm. I'll bring you some tea. Tea, always tea. If it's not tea, then it's vitamins. Then confusion, then missing time. It all clicks into horrible place. I let her guide me to the door, fighting to keep my face neutral, to not show that I know, to not reveal that the fog in my mind is finally clearing. Oh, and Emma? She calls as I start down the hall. Next time you need something from my office, just ask. We wouldn't want you hurting yourself, would we? Of course, I say softly. Thank you for taking such good care of me. I'll bring your tea up in a few minutes, Rebecca calls after me, her voice echoing down the hallway. The chamomile blend, it helps you rest. Thank you, I manage, keeping my voice soft, uncertain, exactly how she expects me to sound. My other hand unclenches with deliberate effort. I can't show tension, can't show fear, can't let her see that anything has changed. In my head, I repeat the words I read like a mantra, but not to fuel anger or panic. To remember, to plan. Rebecca has spent months building her case against me, documenting every orchestrated episode, every manufactured symptom. She's the respected doctor, the pillar of the community, the devoted sister trying to help her unstable surrogate. She's the one who's sick. She's the one who is going crazy with this surrogacy. Not me. She's had months to build her case against me. I have days, maybe weeks, to build mine. But first, I have to play my part. Keep letting her think I'm clueless. Because Rebecca isn't protecting me, she's setting me up. And the only way to fight back is to let her think she's succeeding. I wait until Rebecca leaves for her hospital rounds before starting my search. Through the guest house window, I watch her Range Rover disappear down the tree-lined drive, counting to 500 in my head to be sure she's gone. My hands shake as I plug the burner phone into the wall, bought with cash at a convenience store miles away during one of my walks. Rebecca's cameras might be watching, but they can't see inside my loose maternity cardigan, can't know that I've been photographing everything. The hospital website's staff portal is my first stop. Rebecca's login is easy. She's used the same password for everything since medical school, our mother's maiden name and her medical school graduation year. Some things never change. Just like when we were kids and she'd use the same hiding places for her diary, thinking I'd never look. My heart pounds so hard I can feel it in my throat as I access patient files. My name is there under her personal cases. But something's wrong. The dates don't match. I lean closer to the screen. Sure, I must be misreading. According to these records, I've been her patient for over a year, long before we ever discussed surrogacy. Patient exhibits signs of delusional behavior. History of emotional instability. Recommended for psychiatric evaluation. The patient's artistic tendencies manifest as episodes of disconnection from reality. She's been building this narrative for months before she ever asked me to be her surrogate. Building a case against me before I ever agreed to help her. My stomach churns as I think of all the times she's asked about my feelings, my thoughts, my fears. Each conversation carefully documented and twisted into something sinister. But it's the fertility clinic records that make my blood run cold. The words on the screen blur and sharpen as tears fill my eyes. Egg retrieval successful, patient, Emma Thompson. No, that can't be right. We used Rebecca's eggs. She told me, she said, sperm donor. 4,891 selected, anonymous donor chosen for physical similarity to James Shaw. The room tilts sideways. James isn't the father? But Rebecca said, all those appointments, all those treatments. Patient Rebecca Shaw informed of unsuccessful retrieval, proceeding with sister's eggs as discussed. As discussed? As discussed. When? With whom? My hands press against my swollen belly as the truth crashes over me in waves of horror. The room spins as I read the words again and again until they burn into my brain. My eggs. My baby. Not Rebecca's eggs at all. And James isn't even the father. Everything, every single thing, has been a lie. A sound escapes me, something between a gasp and a sob, and I clamp my hand over my mouth, terrified of the cameras catching my reaction. But I can't stop the tears, can't stop the way my whole body shakes with the revelation. The baby kicks, strong and sure, and suddenly the movement means something entirely different. This isn't my niece or nephew. This is my child, my baby, created from my eggs without my knowledge or consent, stolen from me before it was even conceived. The violation is absolute, complete. She didn't just steal my eggs, she stole my choice, my autonomy, my future. And now she plans to steal my child, to have me committed, to erase me completely. Bile rises in my throat as I think of every gentle touch, every concerned look, every time she's called this baby hers. Every cup of tea, every vitamin, every careful manipulation designed to make me doubt myself, to make me compliant, to make me surrender my own child without ever knowing it was mine. I fold my hand over my stomach. I won't let her take you, I whisper, my voice barely a breath. I promise. Mommy won't let her take you. Mommy. The word feels foreign and familiar all at once. Because that's what I am. Not a surrogate, not an incubator, not Rebecca's stepping stone to motherhood. I'm this baby's mother. Rebecca will have to kill me to take my child away. I stumble to the bathroom, my legs barely carrying me, and collapse in front of the toilet. The tiles are cold against my knees as I retch, bringing up nothing but bile and horror. She's stolen my eggs, created a child that's biologically mine with donor sperm, all while making me thank her for her generosity, for letting me help her have a baby. The sound of the front door opening sends ice through my veins. I scramble up, fingers shaking as I delete the browser history. Through the bathroom window, I see Rebecca's car in the drive. She's home early. I can hear her in the kitchen, the familiar sounds of her preparing my afternoon tea, the tea that's been drugging me, making me compliant, making me doubt myself. My phone buzzes in my pocket, a text from the private investigator I hired last week. I had to pay my last bit of cash, had to pretend I was shopping for baby clothes to get away long enough to meet him. My hands shake as I read his message. Found records, psychiatric facility in Arizona, 10 years ago. Sending files now. The attachments load, each one more damning than the last. Severe delusional disorder. Obsession with pregnancy and motherhood. Patient exhibits extreme fixation on sister's fertility. Attempts to obtain eggs from unwitting donors, or at least against medical advice. I never knew anything about it. The pieces start falling into place like a grotesque puzzle. The fake pregnancy photos I found in the nursery, Rebecca's face expertly photoshopped onto pregnant bodies, the elaborate lies about failed IVF attempts, the way she's been documenting my instability while carefully hiding her own psychiatric history. Emma, Rebecca's voice carries upstairs, sweet and concerned. I brought your tea, sweetie. I flush the toilet to explain my bathroom visit, watching my reflection in the mirror. My face is pale, eyes wide, but that works in my favor. Coming, I call back, carefully pitching my voice to sound weak, tired, exactly what she expects from her drugged, compliant sister. Just a bit of morning sickness. How many times has she manipulated me, though, our lives? How can I ever believe her again? Trust her? Love her? "Would dear," she coos as I emerge from the bathroom. She holds the steaming cup of tea. "Here, this tea will help." I take the cup with trembling hands, but now she'll assume it's from being sick, not from the bone-deep horror of realizing my own sister has orchestrated the greatest theft imaginable, not from knowing that the child inside me is mine, truly mine, and she plans to take it. "Thank you," I whisper, pretending to sip. The steam carries a slight bitter scent I never noticed before. She watches me with those careful eyes, that practiced concern masking something darker, something broken. My sister, my doctor, my jailer, the woman who stole my eggs, who plans to steal my child, who's been systematically destroying my credibility to ensure I can never fight back. "Try to rest," she says softly, reaching out to brush my hair back like she used to when we were children. Her touch makes my skin crawl now. "I'll check on you later." When her footsteps fade down the hall, I pour the tea into the potted plant by my bed, like I've been doing for days now, ever since I first started suspecting something was wrong. The plant is starting to yellow at the edges. What has she been giving me all these months? I sink back onto the bed, so very tired, as the full weight of Rebecca's betrayal crashes over me. My own sister, the person who held my hand at our parents' funeral, who helped me through my divorce, who I trusted more than anyone in the world. How could she do this to me? Tears slip down my cheeks, but I can't tell if they're from sadness or rage. Both emotions war inside me, making it hard to breathe. I want to scream, to break things, to run into her perfect office and destroy every carefully arranged certificate and award. I want to hurt her like she's hurt me. But I also want to understand. How did my brilliant, successful sister become this person? This monster who could steal my eggs, drug me, plan to take my child? The baby moves under my hand and I swallow a sob. All those moments I held back from bonding, all those times I reminded myself, this isn't your baby. They were all lies. Rebecca's lies. She watched me struggle with attachment, probably encouraged it, all while knowing this was my child. And James, sweet, kind James, who's been so supportive, so grateful, does he know? The thought stops my breath. Has he been part of this elaborate deception, or is he another victim of Rebecca's manipulation? I think of how he's been questioning her lately, showing concern about her controlling behavior. Maybe he's as much in the dark as I was. But I can't be sure. I can't trust anyone. My hands shake as I pull out my phone, reviewing the evidence I've gathered so far. Medical records, psychiatric files, fertility clinic documents, each piece adding to a picture of calculated manipulation and psychiatric instability that would shock anyone who knows Rebecca's polished professional facade. But it's not enough. Not yet. I need more. Irrefutable proof that will stand up in court. Because when this breaks, Rebecca will fight with everything she has. She spent months building a case against me, painting me as unstable, delusional, unfit. I need to be smarter, more thorough, more calculating than she is. I'll play her game for now, take her tea and pour it out, smile and nod and play the compliant little sister, and all the while I'll build my case. Because the next time Rebecca underestimates me will be her last. I wait until Rebecca's weekly hospital board meeting to make my move. Through my window, I watched her Range Rover disappear down the drive 15 minutes ago. She'll be gone for at least 3 hours. James is in his study downstairs. I can hear the low murmur of his voice on a conference call, punctuated by keyboard clicks. My hands are steady now as I connect my laptop to Rebecca's surveillance system. The irony doesn't escape me that I'm using her own evidence against her. The cameras are everywhere, hallways, kitchen, my bedroom, even the bathroom. My skin crawls as I scroll through the feeds, bile rising in my throat as I realize the extent of her surveillance. Every private moment, every tear I've shed, every time I've touched my growing belly, she's watched it all, documented it all. But now these same cameras will tell her story, not mine. I scroll through hours of captured images, finding Rebecca in my room at 3 a.m. She's replacing my prenatal vitamins with her own special blend. Rebecca in the nursery, hunched over her laptop, photoshopping her face onto pregnant women's bodies. The timestamps show her working for hours, muttering to herself as she creates her false history. In the corner, a stack of empty frames waits for more fictional memories. Rebecca talking to herself in the nursery, one hand stroking her flat stomach as she practices conversations with a baby she believes is hers. "Mommy loves you so much," she coos to the empty room and her flat belly. "Soon you'll be here and Aunt Emma will be gone and everything will be perfect." But it's the footage from yesterday, when I'd fallen asleep in the sofa in the living room, that makes my blood run cold. She whispers to my empty bedroom, stroking my pillow. Her voice has a dreamy, disconnected quality I've never heard before. "Soon you'll be where you belong and Emma," she laughs softly, the sound nothing like my sister's usual careful chuckle. "Emma will understand why this had to happen. She'll thank me later, when she's better, when she's well again. The doctors will help her see why this was necessary, why I had to save you both." A knock at my door makes me jump, my heart thundering against my ribs. I check the live feed. It's James. "Emma?" His voice carries concern. "Do you have a minute?" I quickly minimize the surveillance windows, my hand shaking as I pull up a pregnancy website as cover. "Come in." The door opens, and I pray my face doesn't show what I've just witnessed, my sister's descent into madness, captured in high definition. He looks troubled, holding a piece of paper that trembles slightly in his grip. In all the months I've known James, I've never seen him look so unsure. "I found something strange in Rebecca's office. A prescription pad. The signatures don't look right." My heart races. After weeks of gathering evidence alone, is this my chance? "What do you mean?" "She's been writing prescriptions in Dr. Harrison's name." He runs a hand through his hair. "But he's been in Europe for months, consulting on a case. He's not here to write anything." I take a careful breath, weighing my next words. One wrong move, and I could lose this opportunity. "James, there's something you need to see," I say quietly, pulling out the DNA test results I received yesterday. The private lab was expensive, nearly emptying my savings, but worth every penny. But you need to be ready for what it means. He takes the papers with trembling hands. I watch his face as he reads. See the moment his world shatters. The color drains from his face, and he has to sit down on the edge of my bed. "This can't be right," he whispers, papers shaking in his grip. "The baby, it's yours? And I'm not..." His voice breaks on the last word. "There's more," I say gently, turning my laptop toward him. The screen shows Rebecca's psychiatric records, the surveillance footage, the forged prescriptions. She's been planning this for months, maybe years. James sinks into a chair, his face ashen, his eyes fix on a video of Rebecca in my room at night. "The vitamins she insists you take, the tea, all those times she said you weren't feeling well. She's been drugging me," I confirm, the words still bitter in my mouth. "Building a case to have me committed after the birth. There's a lawyer coming tomorrow. She specializes in reproductive rights cases. She needs to see all of this." He looks up at me, and I see my own horror reflected in his eyes. The man who thought he was about to be a father now faces a different truth, that his wife is not just a liar, but something far more dangerous. "What do you need me to do?" "You'll just watch," I say, pulling up more surveillance footage. My fingers shake slightly as I type. "Watch and remember everything you see, because when this breaks..." James runs his hands over his face, looking suddenly older. "Rebecca's changed so much in the past year. I thought it was the failed IVF attempts, the pressure of watching you carry our..." He stops, correcting himself. "Of watching you be pregnant. She became obsessed with controlling everything. The nursery, your diet, your schedule. I told myself it was normal, that she was just struggling with not being able to carry her own child." "Did you know about her time in the psychiatric facility?" I ask quietly. His head snaps up. "What?" "No, that was..." "She said it was a sabbatical, research in Europe." His face drains of color as realization hits. "It was 18 months ago. She was gone for 2 months. Said she was studying maternal health care in Switzerland, but he stands abruptly, pacing the small space of my room. James, I say gently. There's no record of any research sabbatical. The dates match her institutionalization in Arizona. Oh, God, he whispers. What else has she lied about? What else don't I know? But before I can answer, the front door opens downstairs. Rebecca's home early. James looks at me desperately. What are we going to do? Should we call the police? Despite everything Rebecca's done, despite the rage and betrayal burning in my chest, I feel an unexpected wave of sadness. She needs help, James. Real help this time. Not just being released against medical advice. Now, she's dangerous, Emma, what she's done to you. I know. My voice catches. But she's still my sister. My only family. Whatever's broken inside her, whatever made her do this. I trail off, remembering the little girl who used to protect me from playground bullies, who held me through our parents' funeral. Somewhere inside this monster she's become, that sister still exists. The baby shower is next weekend, I say quietly. All her colleagues will be there, her friends, the people she spent years convincing of her perfect life. I meet James's troubled gaze. Let her have that. One last moment of her dream. Then we'll confront her, with the lawyer present, with all the evidence. Emma, James starts, but I cut him off. I know how it sounds. After everything she's done to me, I should want to destroy her immediately, and part of me does. I blink back tears. But I want her to get help this time. Real help. And maybe giving her this last piece of her fantasy will make her more willing to accept it. The sound of Rebecca's heels on the stairs makes us both tense. Next weekend, I whisper. After the shower. We'll have everything in place by then. James nods, squeezing my hand before slipping out the door. I can hear him greet Rebecca in the hallway, his voice perfectly normal, giving nothing away. I pick up my pregnancy book just as Rebecca appears with my afternoon tea. Looking at her now, I see what I missed before. The slight manic gleam in her eyes. The too perfect composure. The way she watches my every move like a predator. Here you are, sweetie, she says, setting down the tea I won't drink. The baby shower invitations went out today. Everything's going to be perfect. Yes, I agree softly, thinking of how her perfect world will shatter in 9 days. Everything will be exactly as it should be. She beams, patting my belly before leaving. I wait until her footsteps fade before letting a tear fall. Because even though I know what needs to be done, even though I know she's dangerous and sick, it still breaks my heart that it's come to this. That my sister's obsession and illness have led us here. I'll give her this last perfect moment, this baby shower she's planned so meticulously, and then I'll tear it all away, just as she planned to do to me. Sometimes love means being cruel to be kind, even if it breaks your heart to do it. Rebecca's house gleams like a magazine spread, every surface polished to perfection. The pale blue and silver decorations catch the afternoon light, and the elaborate cake displays welcome baby Shaw in elegant script. I sit in the designated mother's chair, though Rebecca keeps correcting guests, saying it's the surrogate's chair, while my sister flutters between guests, playing the proud mother to James stands beside me, tense and watchful. Rebecca hasn't let me out of her sight all day. She hovers, interrupting whenever anyone asks me direct questions about the pregnancy. Emma's been so confused lately, she'll say, patting my hand. Let me answer that. She's already corrected 3 of my birth stories, insisting I'm misremembering details of doctor's appointments she attended. The first crack appears during the gift opening. No, Emma, stay seated, Rebecca commands when I try to reach for a present. You're so unsteady lately, we don't want any accidents. Her smile is sweet, but her eyes are glazed. I'll open them. They're my gifts, after all. This is from Dr. Harrison, she announces, reaching for a silver-wrapped package, her voice carrying that familiar note of authority. But Rebecca, Dr. Davis, one of her colleagues, frowns. Harrison's still in Europe, has been for months. Rebecca's smile freezes, but her hand tightens possessively on my shoulder. No, he's been writing Emma's prescriptions. Just last week, That's impossible, Dr. Davis continues, her frown deepening. I spoke to him yesterday. He hasn't prescribed anything since January. Something shifts in Rebecca's eyes, a fracture in her careful composure. Her fingers dig into my shoulder painfully. He has to have been here, she insists, her voice rising. He's been helping me monitor Emma's condition. The medications. The room grows quiet. James steps closer to me as Rebecca's hand moves from my shoulder to my neck, almost caressing. What medications, Rebecca? Dr. Davis asks slowly. To keep her calm, controlled. She gets... Rebecca makes a choking sound and shakes her head. She gets confused, delusional, thinks the baby is hers. Her words tumble out faster now. Her hands move between my hair and my belly. It's for her own good. She doesn't understand that this is my baby. Mine. I had to make sure. Rebecca, I say softly, trying to move away from her touch. You're hurting me. Hurting you? She laughs, high and brittle. I'm protecting you. Protecting us. The tea, the vitamins. All of it was to keep you safe, to keep you from ruining everything. This is my birth. The baby is mine. Horror dawns on the faces around us as Rebecca continues, her facade crumbling. Her hands move from caressing to gripping, one in my hair, one pressed hard against my belly. Tell them, Emma, she hisses in my ear, though everyone can hear. Tell them how confused you've been, how you can't remember things properly. Tell them about your episodes, your instability. Tell them, this is my baby. Mine. The baby kicks against her hand, and something in Rebecca's eyes turns feral. The baby knows, Rebecca whispers, but her voice carries in the silent room. The baby knows I'm its real mother. It's trying to reach me. Her grip tightens in my hair, making me wince. Not like you, Emma. You never could follow simple instructions. Always questioning, always doubting. Special? One of her colleagues steps forward, cautiously. Maybe we should take a break. No! Rebecca twists my head with her fast movement, drawing gasps from the guests. Emma needs to tell the truth. Tell them how unstable you've been. Tell them about the things you imagine, the lies you tell. Tell them! Rebecca, James says, you're hurting her. It would never hurt her. I've protected her, given her the right medications, monitored everything. Her free hand presses harder against my belly. I had to make sure she didn't ruin this like she ruins everything. The tea had to be perfect, exactly the right dose to keep her compliant but conscious. Do you know how hard that was? How carefully I had to plan? Dr. Davis moves slowly closer. What was in the tea, Rebecca? Just what she needed, what the baby needed, my baby. Her laugh turns hysterical. It had to be mine. The eggs, they were supposed to be mine, but they weren't working. But Emma's were perfect. Just like we're perfect. Two sisters, practically twins. So what's the difference, really? They might as well have been mine. The room has gone deathly quiet. Someone's recording on their phone. Rebecca doesn't notice, lost in her own world. The surveillance was necessary. She sleepwalks, talks to herself. I have it all documented, she laughs. Show them your records, Emma. Show them how sick you've been. Those records are forged, Beck, I say gently. Just like the prescriptions. Just like the pregnancy photos. Something snaps behind her eyes. Liar! She shoves me forward out of the chair. James catches me before I hit the ground. You're trying to steal my baby, just like before. Before? Dr. Davis asks sharply. In Arizona, Rebecca snarls, reaching for her medical bag. She tried to ruin everything in Arizona too. But I stopped her. I'll stop her again. The scalpel catches the light as she pulls it out. Nobody move! This is my baby, mine, and if I have to cut it out myself... Rebecca, stop, I yell as James pushes me behind him. Think about what you're saying. Think about what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, she says, her voice suddenly calm, the scalpel steady in her hand. I'm protecting my child from a mentally unstable woman. It's all documented. All the evidence is there. Once you're committed, everyone will understand. Everything will be perfect. She lunges around James, scalpel aimed at my abdomen. I won't let you take my baby. The room erupts in chaos. James tackles her as two colleagues grab her arms. The scalpel clatters to the floor as Rebecca screams. Horrible, inhuman sounds that will haunt my nightmares. My baby, my baby. Don't let them take my baby. Even as they hold her down, she keeps screaming, keeps trying to reach me. Emma needs help. She's sick. She's lying. The baby is mine, mine. The police arrive with paramedics. It takes 4 people to hold her down for the sedation. As the drug takes effect, her eyes find mine one last time. Emma, she whimpers, suddenly sounding like my little sister again. Please don't let them take my baby. It was never your baby, Bee. I whisper, tears streaming down my face. But you'll get help this time, real help. As they wheel her out, still mumbling about babies and tea and Arizona, I sink into James's arms, finally letting myself break down. I'm so sorry, James keeps saying, his arms tight around me as the last police car pulls away. I should have seen. All those times she insisted on the tea, the way she monitored everything, how she kept pushing you away from your art. I thought she was just being protective. I never imagined. But none of us saw, not really. Not until it was almost too late. The signs were there in every controlled smile, every careful manipulation, every medical necessity that kept me isolated and dependent. We all played our parts in her elaborate performance. Me, the compliant sister trying to give her a child. James, the devoted husband supporting his wife's dream. Her colleagues, impressed by her dedication to her giving sister. The baby shower decorations flutter in the breeze from the open door, cheerful blue and silver mockeries of the tragedy that just unfolded. The "Welcome Baby Shaw" banner now seems cruel in its irony. Abandoned gifts litter the floor, some still spattered with punch from when Rebecca knocked over the table. The perfect cake, the one she spent hours designing, sits untouched, its fondant surface marred by the scalpel she dropped on it during her struggle. This time, she won't be released until she really is well. Her colleagues witnessed her breakdown, saw the evidence of her forgeries, heard her confess to drugging me. The police have her journals, her surveillance tapes, her documented delusions. She is so sick and no one noticed. I look down at my belly, at the child that's truly mine, and whisper a promise through my tears. You'll know your Aunt Rebecca someday. When she's better, when she's herself again. I'll tell you about the woman she used to be before the illness took her. About how she used to laugh. Really laugh. Not that careful sound she learned to fake. About how she used to paint with me when we were little, before she decided art was a waste of time. About how she used to be my protector, my best friend, my big sister. James squeezes my hand as fresh tears fall. Maybe with proper treatment. I nod, but we both know the truth. Recovery isn't just about medication and therapy. It's about wanting to get better, about recognizing the illness for what it is. And Rebecca's been running from that recognition for so long. If that day ever comes, the day when my sister returns from wherever her illness has taken her, I'll be waiting. Until then, I have to protect my child, myself, and yes, even her, from the darkness that's consumed her. In a few hours, the cleaning service will come, erasing all evidence of this afternoon's tragedy. But some things can't be cleaned away so easily. Some wounds take longer to heal. Some truths change us forever. And some sisters can only be saved if they want to save themselves. 10 years later. Sophie's 10th birthday party is in full swing in our backyard. Her dark curls bounce as she shows her friends the new art studio her father built her. Just like Mom's, but smaller. James and his wife Sarah help serve cake while I watch from the porch, adding final touches to my latest painting. The canvas shows 2 sisters as children, their faces turned away, one's shadow growing increasingly distorted. It's part of my Family Shadows series, which will be featured at the Morrison Gallery next month. The New York Times called my work a haunting exploration of maternal bonds and mental illness. Sometimes I wonder if Rebecca has seen the articles. Mom, Sophie calls, waving a fresh painting. Look what I made! The joy in her voice makes my heart swell. She's so different from the solemn baby I brought home from the hospital, both of us raw from Rebecca's breakdown. Now she's confident, creative, and surprisingly wise about our complicated family story. Beautiful, sweetheart, I call back. James catches my eye and smiles. We've come a long way from those first terrible months after Rebecca's institutionalization. The custody arrangement was surprisingly simple. DNA doesn't lie, and Rebecca's psychiatric records made any claim from her impossible. But I made sure James stayed in Sophie's life. His love for her never wavered, even after learning she wasn't biologically his. Sarah turned out to be a blessing, a child psychologist who helped Sophie understand her aunt's illness in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes people's brains get sick, she explained when Sophie was 5 and starting to ask questions. Just like you get tummy aches, Aunt Rebecca's mind was hurting. My phone buzzes, a message from the Surrogate Mothers' Rights Foundation. Another case needs review. The foundation grew from my own experience, helping women navigate the complex legal and emotional landscape of surrogacy. Last year, we helped pass legislation protecting surrogate mothers' rights in 3 states. The hospital called, James says quietly, joining me on the porch. Rebecca's doctors think she's ready for another supervised visit. My heart tightens. The last visit, 6 months ago, went well. Rebecca's medication is working, and years of therapy have helped her acknowledge what she did. She's not the same woman who tried to steal my child, but she's not quite my sister again either. We exist in a careful middle ground of supervised visits and monitored conversations. Sophie asked about her yesterday, I tell him. She wants to show her the art studio. Are you okay with that? I look at my daughter, so strong and free, understanding more about mental health at 10 than most adults. Yes, I say finally, but supervised, like always. Of course. He squeezes my shoulder before rejoining the party. My latest painting for the foundation catches the afternoon light. A pregnant woman emerging from shadows, her face clear and determined. It's titled Reclamation, and it's become something of a symbol for our cause. Sometimes I think about how close I came to being one of those shadows, erased by my sister's illness and society's lack of protection for surrogate mothers. Mom, Sophie calls again. Aunt Rebecca's birthday card came. Can I open it? Coming, sweetie. The card will be appropriate, carefully worded. Rebecca's doctors review all communication. But it will also be genuine. My sister is trying, fighting her illness daily. Sometimes I see glimpses of the woman she used to be, like sunlight through storm clouds. I join my daughter, surrounded by the family we've built from the ashes of betrayal. James and Sarah, who love Sophie unconditionally. My art students, who find healing through creativity. The women from the foundation, whose strength continually amazes me. And somewhere, in a hospital room, my sister paints too, part of her therapy. Her last piece showed 2 women holding hands, faces turned toward each other. She titled it, Maybe That's All Any of Us Can Hope For, Someday. Someday, the shadows will lift completely. Someday, the healing will be complete. Someday, we'll all be whole again. Until then, we paint our truth, love our children, and keep reaching for the light. That's all any mother can do.
Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed the story, hit subscribe so you never miss a new tale. Your support means the world. See you in the next chapter.